Have you ever watched a show and been like, this could have been a movie? Because I have. This thought first occurred to me a couple years ago when I watched the Korean zombie show All of Us Are Dead. It's 12 episodes, probably should have been 8, probably could have been 6, and in my mind, he could have taken all the best parts of that script and crammed it into 2.5 hours. Now I understand that's not the creative intent they had when creating that, but I'm a person who prefers movies over television, so I'm a little bit biased. It takes a lot for me to want to invest a bunch of time into a show, and if I'm not hooked within the first couple of episodes, I'm not really going to commit the time to do so. A few weeks ago, I found out one of my best friends hadn't seen a bunch of 80s Hollywood classics like Ferris Bueller's Day Off or The Karate Kid, and between the two, we forced him to watch The Karate Kid, and he really liked it. He really did. And I said, yeah, doesn't that make you want to watch more? And he said, hell yeah. And I said, cool, there's 2 more movies. There's some spin-offs that you may or may not want to watch, and there's a whole TV show called Cobra Kai that I really like. And he said, damn, I don't really want to watch a whole TV show. And I said, I know, me too. So then I get the big idea to turn Cobra Kai's first season into a movie. It wouldn't be that hard because the show is a pretty straightforward premise and it's not that long, at least in its first season. I don't remember if the seasons afterwards are significantly longer or not. I think they might be, but adding up all the episodes in my editor with all the credits removed except for the final episode is 4 hours and 37 minutes, whereas my edit of the show into like a movie format is 2 hours and 22 minutes. This is still about 15 minutes longer than the original Karate Kid, but note that I had a lot of stuff to cram into a very short amount of time. There's just a lot of story arcs and a lot of different subplots that go into Cobra Kai that I found, unfortunately, a lot of them were difficult to cut out, like they're referenced in many later scenes, or they need to justify certain actions. Like a lot of these scenes don't really work exclusive of each other. For example, I had to cut out the entire subplot regarding the LaRusso dick billboard. I had to cut out that entire subplot. So it gets a little bit confusing when Louis burns down Johnny's car and he says this.
That piece of shit not to mess with my family.
But at least we have the driving factor of Daniel already being pissed at Johnny for opening the dojo at all. Well, okay, I don't want to get into all the specific cutouts yet. The point being is that the original Karate Kid doesn't have a lot of characters. It has like maybe 6. You got Danny, Johnny, Ali, and then you have Kreese, Miyagi, and like Danny's mom. That's like the whole cast. Whereas in Cobra Kai Season 1, you have a lot of plot lines to follow. Let's see, let me think. In terms of characters who actually, like, they're kind of essential to the plot, you have Johnny, Miguel. All right, Johnny, Miguel, Daniel, Sam, Robbie. That's 5 characters already. Okay, you have Kyler. Less important, but they still have a lot of dialogue and they still play off of other characters. You have Dimitri, Aisha, Hawk, which are more minor characters, but they're still very prevalent. I guess I consider Yasmin and Aisha kind of a character together. Like Aisha, Yasmin, and Moon are kind of like one character together, and that 3 of those kind of create a plot line that's directly important for Sam. Oh, even Louis, man, Louis gets more screen time. I think in my edit, Louis has more screen time than like Carmen, because I really didn't want to leave out any of the fight scenes. So even though I think it was entirely possible to leave this scene out, it wasn't entirely possible to leave this scene out. Like, first of all, this is just a kick-ass scene. I love seeing Johnny kick some ass. This is the only fight we get to see him do, I think, other than the fight in the first episode. I was wondering when I first had this idea if I could just avoid having Johnny's car get torched and then he'll just pull up in the Challenger at some point. Why I needed to do this scene is because it leads to Daniel and Johnny bonding, which, like, this cannot happen. There's no way I can motivate this scene without having him torch his car and having Amanda like sort them out. But this is one of those scenes where I was able to get past a lot of it. In the original version of this, okay, Louis burns down Johnny's car, and then he asks where Daniel lives, and that's how the episode ends, right? He goes, "Where does Daniel LaRusso live?" In Cedar Hills. And then he takes the bike, he goes, and that's the end of that episode. And then the next episode begins with him showing up on Daniel's porch, and then Amanda sits them down to have a talk. Now, I don't have time for that stuff. I gotta cut down 2 hours worth of footage in the show. So instead, this goes straight to Sam and Miguel. I guess I should explain this chronologically instead, but whatever. This goes straight to Sam and Miguel having a scene, and then instead we cut to Daniel and Johnny already at the dinner table with Sam mediating.
Well, let's not do this.
He torched my car. I did not torch your car.
I had to cut out the subplot where Daniel fucks with Johnny's rent, and I had to cut out the subplot where Johnny draws a dick on his billboard, and I had to cut out the subplot about Johnny's stepdad being rich and him paying for the dojo and everything. So this is the original version of this scene.
So Johnny, I hear you run a dojo. It's nice.
Yeah, it was nice until your husband got my rent doubled.
You spray painted a dick on my face.
You tried to get me banned from the All Valley.
Okay, guys, you know what? Let's not do this.
He torched my car. I did not torch your car.
Okay, so this is my version of that scene.
Okay, guys, you know what? Let's not do this.
He torched my car. I did not torch your car. I'm the guy who had your car.
So you can see, I didn't want to include dialogue referring to subplots that we just did not see, because I just needed to cut some stuff out. And honestly, a lot of those subplots, they don't go nowhere anyway. But let's just go from the start instead of me being all over the place. So one thing I knew going into this is that the first and last episodes were gonna mostly stay intact. There wasn't really much like a cutout. This is all the same, I think. Okay, so here's when the major edits begin. Okay, so in the original episode, I have the original episode on this timeline right here. In the original episode, we get the scene with Miguel and Johnny. We get the scene with Johnny's stepdad, and then his sad scene where he goes and reminisces, and then goes to the arena, gets his car wrecked by Sam, goes to the dealership, meets Daniel, and then he decides we're gonna make a dojo. Okay, that's what happens. In the next episode, it begins with him starting to train Miguel. Another LaRusso scene, more bullshit. Okay, wow, I cut out a lot of material. Then we get this scene, which is when we meet the kids. We meet Dimitri and Eli. We find out that Kyler and Sam are dating, and then it then cuts to Johnny teaching Miguel how to punch. So this is the first time. I usually don't mess with the chronology of the scenes. Most of this plays out in the same order that it originally played out with. But this, in my version, all right, you get this scene where Miguel asks him to teach him karate. He says no. Then we go to the episode 2. We go to this scene where he meets the kids. He meets the other nerds. Okay, we see that Kyler and Sam are together. Then we cut to Johnny being sad. He drinks. He watches whatever that movie was called. Gets his car wrecked by Sam, and then goes to the dealership, and then decides to make the dojo, right? And then, so the problem is this episode 1 montage, this is how it ends. Johnny builds the dojo in a montage, he puts his headband on, and then we cut to the end credits of the episode. Which, of course, this is a good spot for a title card, but we already got a title card at this point earlier in the first episode, and it just doesn't kind of go anywhere, right? I couldn't figure out a good place to splice this into until I figured this out. So, okay, yeah, so we go straight from this scene to him teaching Miguel how to punch. Now, it just does, I had an older version where the shot of Kyler's face. So I had one version where we cut from this shot to Johnny punching the dummy. Like instantly it would just jump cut to him punching the dummy. But I thought this was a fine solution because like we need this scene to play out mostly straight because this is how we learn about Robbie. And then we get this scene anyway. Where he says picture your enemy, and then it flashes back. It just flashes, it plays the Grand Theft Auto 5 mission complete noise, and it flashes to Kyler's face. So, I'd want to edit that out. I don't like the usage of flashbacks in the show. I think there's too many of them, so I tried to edit out as many as possible, but that one I was okay keeping. But yeah, so that was like the first like major edit that I did where I actually messed with the chronology of things. So we get this scene, which I really like, where Danny meets Kyler, and he doesn't like the kid because he's an asshole. But he has this whole conversation where Kyler explains that he got attacked by a crazy dude outside this mini mall. But I needed to cut that short, right? So this is my version of it.
Where are your parents from?
Irvine, I think.
Irvine. Right. So tell me about that China you got there.
Oh, this.
So in the original version, Kyler tells the whole story, but in this version, he just asks about the black guy, and then we get this audio sting, cuts to the Cobra Kai dojo. We get this great scene which makes fun of like wax on, wax off, and then Daniel shows up and confronts him about beating up kids. So like I feel like this part, like the viewer is smart enough to fill the blanks. I think that in the TV show there's a lot of parts where characters will explain stuff that we'd already seen or explain stuff that is kind of obvious, and I think it's to be considerate of a viewer who maybe hasn't seen the entire show until then, just so they have context. But in this case, we're making a movie, you have the context, you saw the scene, you don't need the character explaining something we saw like 10 minutes ago. Let's see, where else can we... Oh yeah, there's also a really minor edit here in this scene here. I'm gonna take off this one. This is how it originally looks, all right? So he dumps out all his trash, and then he finds the check that his stepdad gave him. That's how he rents the space for the dojo, right? But I cut that subplot out. Johnny's stepdad doesn't show up in my edit at all. So in my version, I replaced it with this shot of him cleaning the garbage. This is from like episode 8 or 9 or something. I don't remember the full context of that montage. I don't even remember what actually happens in that bit. I wanted to keep as many of the action scenes and training montages as possible, so we keep the swimming scene. But after this, let me find the original episode. This is what, episode 2? Episode 3. So let's go to episode 3. Okay, so in the original episode, we see they do the swimming montage with the kicks, the kick montage, and then Johnny's worrying about rent, which is another subplot that I don't really include, so I try to avoid them referencing it at all. And then we get this key conversation with Miguel about his Halloween costume, and then Johnny hooks him up with this skeleton costume as a homage to the original film. So in this scene, I just cut that scene out entirely. It goes straight from... So we go straight from that scene to the party, and we can kind of make the assumption... The viewer can kind of assume that like maybe it's an homage to the original, which it is, or maybe, you know, it's just a visual indication of Johnny's influence over Miguel, that he's like literally imitating his hero. We cut out a lot of the party. We cut out Aisha and the girls talking with Sam. So I just have Miguel show up, see his friends, and then we go to this principal hitting on Danny LaRusso. We see Daniel getting PTSD as he sees Miguel in the skeleton costume. He goes out there to confront Johnny. We don't get to see Daniel talk to Sam about being at the party or anything like that, or him having ulterior motives. I think he creeps on her texts with Kyler and he sees them. I think that's what he does. We don't see any of that, but we do get this scene, which is enough to motivate Daniel to go and confront Kyler anyway. Because any dad who sees this, he's gonna do something. I'm sorry. So we don't need all that. It's fine. It works. It works on its own. So he goes and he cockblocks Kyler, whatever. So again, we haven't actually seen Aisha yet this whole scene, but we know that Yasmin and the girls bully her because we've already seen that in the lunchroom. So we just instead get the scene where Sam goes, "I want to leave," and then Yasmin posts her little TikTok, her little Instagram story, whatever about it. Nice freaking, I like how they got the boomerang, right? Like, that's a boomerang, right? But this fucking... Look at this interface on her phone. New video alert. What is she posting on that notifies everybody in the school? New video alert. Bro, she just added to her story, bro. Anyway. But yes, we cut from here to the guys in the washroom to the bathroom fight. Again, I think that a lot of this scene was optional, but I really like this bathroom fight. It's... Oh my god. Okay, so again, I wanted to cut out a lot of the flashbacks, right? So there's this bit here. So Miguel has a little flashback about the front kick lessons they just did, but that's the thing, they just did them, so I wanted to cut those out. Luckily, this was really easy. Like the way the show is framed, like look how seamless this is. Like the show kind of did the work for me. I cut out the flashbacks, and I don't think I did much to the audio. I don't think I really did anything for the audio, but look at this. Look at that, it's so seamless. You get like a little bass quake right here. The bass kind of picks up right here as he has like, as the flashback ends. But you know, as a viewer, you can kind of just perceive that as like he's internally quaking, you know, Miguel's got fucking rage in him right now at this point, right? You don't even notice that there was a cut there, bro. It's so sick. It's so good. Okay, this happens a few times I think in the show where they hit the little flashback and I was able to cut it out pretty easily. So there's a lot more to this. I might upload more of this editing process if people are interested. Otherwise, I may be screening this for a friend and recording our reactions, seeing how he feels as somebody who has never seen the show before. But yeah, I don't know if this video is gonna get copyright claimed. I don't know if anyone's gonna see this video, so let's just put it out there and see how it does, and see if there's other nerds like me who are interested in taking TV shows and just diluting them down to like a 2.5 hour format, because, you know, we don't need to see so much goddamn filler. But yeah, I love making these editing videos. I would love to do more of them, so just let me know what you think in the comments, and yeah, strike first, strike hard, no mercy.